Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode review. Today, I'm reviewing the 200th and final episode of Beavis and Butthead's original run on MTV, titled Beavis and Butthead Are Dead. This episode aired on MTV November 28th, 1997. What is this episode about, you ask? Well, after Beavis and Butthead have not been in school for about 3 weeks, the secretary decides to call Beavis and Butthead's house. Meanwhile, Beavis and Butthead are just watching TV reruns and eating nachos like they always do. So when the phone rings, Beavis goes to pick up the phone. The secretary asks Beavis, why haven't Beavis and Butthead been in school for 3 weeks? Beavis says, yeah, they're dead, and just hangs up immediately after, sending the entire high school into panic. Most of the classmates are wondering what could have led to something so tragic. But people like McVicker and Buzzcut are very happy to see them dead. However, later on, McVicker decides to collect some money for after their deaths. And some of the classmates have memories of them living in a class with Beavis and Butthead. However, later on, when McVicker's being talked to by a reporter, watch the background and you can see Beavis and Butthead walking through the crowd. And then Beavis and Butthead get a hold of the change jar and try to pull it away from McVicker, thus causing a full-on in the Hall of the Mountain King style scene where Beavis and Butthead continue to struggle against McVicker and various clips play. Then McVicker falls to the ground because he suffers a heart attack. Buzzcut comes in and uses CPR on his mouth to get him up. Beavis and Butthead walk away as this happens. As they walk down the street, an ambulance passes by them. They talk about how they're gonna possibly never have to go to school ever again. The final shot of the episode shows a street view with a sunset, and they walk along the road into the sunset, talking about how they'll never have to go to school ever again. The episode ends with one last the end. Fun fact, the song that plays when they're walking into the sunset is Romantic Legend by Eric Swan. That song is surprisingly powerful for an episode revolving around Beavis and Butthead just skipping school. I personally think that this episode does what all finales should do. Make it funny, have a funny twist, and a great ending. No other show could have as good of a finale as this episode was. Honestly, I really liked this episode, and the part when they walked off into the sunset, that actually got a lot of tears out of me when I first watched it. So that should really prove to you how good of a finale this episode was. And I like that they included clips from episodes, but one thing I don't entirely get, is why are some of the clips from banned episodes, like Comedians, for example? That episode was banned due to a whole fire controversy that happened in 1993, years before the episode aired, so who knows? But despite that, I still really liked the finale of this series. It perfectly showed what a finale should be. And you know what? Honestly, this is a finale that I am glad never stuck. Well, not in the typical sense, but if it wasn't for the season 8 episode Werewolves of Highland and Crying, this finale would have actually been how Beavis and Butthead ended. And honestly, that would have been crazy to think about. And the fact that Daria appears in the series before her show, Daria, takes place, which is set in Lawndale, makes me imply that after the events of the episode, Beavis and Butthead Are Dead, that is, Daria moves from Highland all the way to Lawndale. That's how Daria begins. So if you combined the first episode of Daria and the last episode of Beavis and Butthead together, you could kind of have like a joint timeline kind of thing. And I see this episode from a historical aspect, and there was a lot of hype leading up to the episode's premiere on MTV. In fact, in November of 1997, past episodes would be aired again before the series finale came out. One of the promos that was made for this finale actually had Mike Judge himself saying that Beavis and Butthead have been causing him nothing but worry, and he gets sick and tired of it, so he wants to take him out. Because of this promo alone, I was seriously thinking that Mike Judge was the true villain of the finale, but I guess not. Then after watching the episode for the first time, I was like, why did I make that theory back then? It's just irrelevant. It was just a way for them to not see their school again. And I personally think that that setup is absolutely clever. Seriously, that is one of the more clever moments in a Beavis and Butthead episode. I mean, come on. Like, take for example how I just reviewed Thomas and the Billboard last time. I hated that episode, and I had no desire to ever watch that episode again. But Beavis and Butthead Are Dead, on the other hand, really, really stuck with me when I last watched it. And I actually remember crying at the ending when they walk off into the sunset, like I mentioned earlier. That moment can truly stick with you after you watch the episode. So, yeah, I'm going to have to give this episode a 10 out of 10. It's definitely rewatchable. It's got a lot of funny parts in it, and it was a great send off to the show. So there you go. Beavis and Butthead Are Dead gets a 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.